How's it going, everyone, and welcome to my channel. In front of me is the Batman Hush Superman action figure by MAFEX. Now, MAFEX have been doing a great job with their figures lately. The superhero stuff is so good. They have done Batman before, again part of the Batman Hush comic series line, and that was in blue version and a black alternate version that came out in January. I haven't got the black one yet, but I will cover it when I do get it. That was a really good figure, the Batman one, the blue one anyway. It was really good superhero figure, really good Batman figure. So this is pretty exciting in my opinion to try and see if they've nailed Superman as well. And it looks like they kind of have from what I've observed and seen online so far. So let's take a look. With the packaging, it's a little bit lighter than the one that Batman used. His was a bit more of a darker color of blue. Makes sense because Batman's a darker kind of dude. But otherwise, it reminds me a lot of a wave of Batman Hush figures that came out over 10 years ago, I think it is. Again, using the same characters and such, but I think it's just a color scheme for this particular storyline. You get a big window display that straight away tells you mine has an issue, potentially. So he has a dislocated arm. I'm not too concerned at this stage because it just looks like it hadn't been put in place in the shoulder socket properly. Doesn't look broke or anything, so I'll have a final look once I take it out of the box. But fingers crossed, it's okay. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple front, pretty reminiscent of most other MAFEX action figures out there. On the top, you get a picture of Superman and then more title or text. On the side, you get another picture of Superman, like so, looking pretty serious at that. On the back, you get more pictures of Superman in a couple of different poses. Just wanted to point out the Poison Ivy stuff doesn't look that great, even in the promo shots, but we'll get into that more very soon. On the other side is just more text, another picture of Superman right down there. And then on the bottom side, just some manufacturer details, but nothing special. So with Superman out of the box, you can see what he comes with. So we'll go through the parts first before we get into the figure. So as usual with most MAFEX that I've got anyway, he comes with a base stand. So this is the base here, comes with the shaft and then a claw piece. So I've already assembled this stand. You've got some screws at the end to kind of tighten them or loosen them as you see fit. Pretty basic stand for the most part, but it's useful to have, and it's nice that they still include them in their figures. Then in terms of optional parts, let's go with the hands, then we'll go with the head, and then we'll go with this thing here. So one of the included hands is one actually for the Batman figure. So this one includes the kryptonite ring, as you can see right there on the knuckle. So it's a pretty basic hand. It's going to be the same color as Batman's gloved hand. So if you have the Batman figure, then this would be great for that. If you don't have the Batman figure, hey, it's worth picking up. It was a really solid figure. So this is just a cool addition to have. Not necessary, but it's a cool one too that they've added in. The other hands then, so he's got the fists already attached to him, as you can see. Then he gets grab hands, or ones where he gets kind of sparked in the face by Batman with the kryptonite ring. So you can use that. Just a regular kind of flesh tone on those, so pretty decent. They're pretty big actually when you kind of put them near his face. See? So when he goes kind of mad with the kryptonite ring, he kind of, it looks a bit big in my opinion, but it's okay. It looks cool too. Then he gets another one which are just relaxed hands, like so, again with the same flesh tone. As far as the hand flesh tone goes, I like what they've done with that. Most of the hands look pretty good. These ones are a little bit on the plain tone side. The other ones have a little bit more shading going on. These ones I feel lack that. But you get karate chop hands, or in Superman's case, these are for his concentrating flying hands, if you like. Or are these the concentrating flying hands, the fists, however you want to call them. He comes with an alternate pair of fists, kind of like how Batman did. So you've got the regular fists, but these ones have a little bit of a gap right there near the thumb, you can see. I don't really know what you'd use this for, maybe to kind of manipulate his cape if you really wanted to, but I didn't really find a use for it on my side, so they've included it anyway. Then as far as alternate head swaps go, you only get this single one. So this is one with red eyes. I'm hoping I can show you this. So you can see he's got the red eyes right there, hopefully capturing that angle decently. But his eyebrows are blue. You don't really notice that unless you're taking really close-up photos or videos of him like I am. But otherwise it looks okay. He's got blue highlights along his hair, similar to what Batman's Bruce Wayne head had on him. I will point out, I feel like his hair parting is the wrong direction. The S is back to front. It should be the other way around. And looking at the comic itself, it's the other way around anyway. So I'm not sure why for both head sculpts, the parting seems to be the wrong way around, at least in my opinion. But generally as a sculpt, it looks pretty good. I like the kind of aggression on this expression, on this face. Anyway, I think it looks really good, and the red eyes definitely bring this out. So this is a really good head sculpt in my opinion, minus the parting. Not a deal breaker, but it's just something that I think could have been sorted out. Then we get these extra parts which are for Poison Ivy. So in the comic, Poison Ivy kind of manipulates him for a little bit. So you get 2 pieces for his arms that just kind of slide in. Just take off the hands and slot these on. They're squishy. They might kind of tear, so try not to be too rough with them. And then you get one that goes around his neck. Now, when I do put this around his neck, normally it kind of shifts up and ends up going around his forehead, so he ends up looking like Julius Caesar or something. But this is, again, pretty flimsy. I feel like it's probably going to tear at some point. So it's not the best of quality, and it doesn't look that great either. They've given it because it's part of the Batman Hush line. But you know what? Let's just talk about the head sculpt again. Everyone's been mentioning it, that he should have come with a happy face for Superman. That would have kind of made this figure a little bit better, but he doesn't. So he only comes with this one. So I would have personally rather taken these out and given a happy face instead. On first impression, the figure looks pretty good. The sculpt is pretty super in my opinion, and it captures the essence of Superman really, really well, my opinion. But rewinding a bit, you saw in the package that the armor is dislocated. In my case, it's fine. There are the usual MAFEX typical loose joints, and they do sometimes fall out or limbs fall out. That's kind of usual as part of a feature for action figures at this point, but it was not broken, so it's okay. We'll go into that articulation and that kind of thing in just a moment, but let's talk about more about the way he looks. For the most part, he looks just like the Batman figure. It's pretty much the same body mold. The only real difference, apart from the color obviously, is the pec muscles here. So they look really good. Generally speaking, the pecs look great, but it's like a plate on top of it, right? You can see there's like this bit here, you can see, and then that actually is where the cape goes into, which is fine. I just feel like the collarbone ends up being more pronounced because of this method or this way of executing that. Generally speaking, I'm okay with it. It's just a collarbone that looks a little bit too pronounced for me. Otherwise, okay, it makes Superman look a bit bigger at the chest area versus Batman, and that's cool. Otherwise, he's actually the same build. Legs and all of that are the same. This is also different actually. So Superman has just his pants or Speedos are just one rubber piece, whereas Batman, his utility belt was completely separate. So a bit different here. So that is one slight negative, because I feel like it looks a bit too big for him in certain poses that you get him in. Generally, you can kind of get over it and hide that. His boots are a little bit different too, of course, compared to Batman, because he's got different style on the ends of his boots or the start of his boots. So those are pretty cool. And then yeah, he looks really good. One thing I also want to point out is the back on the cape with the yellow S. I swear a lot of Superman figures tend to omit this. I know he doesn't always have the yellow S, but as a traditional Superman, I think he needs the yellow S on the back of his cape. So I'm glad that they added this as just a print on here. It might rub off over time, so try not to do too much of rubbing like that. But otherwise, yeah, he looks good. The S on the front as well, which I haven't even spoken about, is also really good in my eyes. It's nice and cleanly painted, and it looks mint in my opinion. That's a nice looking S.
Nice S.
But similarly with the head sculpt on this guy, this is the more serious look. He's got the blue eyebrows. Again, I've got really harsh lighting on this, so it does look a bit more pronounced. From a distance, you're not going to notice that too much. I personally would have preferred black eyebrows, but they went with the blue. I don't mind the blue highlights along his head, which is all fine anyway. I think that kind of pronounces it a little bit more in a nice way. But the blue eyebrows probably should have been black. And again, he's scowling in this face, which is fine for the comic it's based on. But he still should have come with a happy face. Why not? But otherwise, again, it's still a pretty decent sculpt for the expression that they're trying to go for. So generally speaking, this guy does look very, very cool. I should also mention that the cape does have 2 wires in it on this side and then this side. So similar to Batman, which actually had more wires in that case, you can just kind of maneuver it and twist and pinch and such. Probably won't last overly long. I think they can sometimes snap, and you might have to end up replacing the wire, which should be easy to do. You can probably just sew this back or unsew this, add a new wire, and then sew it back. So it should be okay if you're a dab hand at crafts, but they've gone with a soft cape. I don't mind that. I think the soft cape works in this case. It's just for a lot of people I know, or some people, it's a bit of work involved and effort involved to tweak it to get a really cool looking natural cape. Hard cape, soft cape, I think I'll go with soft cape for me personally, generally speaking. But yeah, when it comes to the way this figure looks, I think he looks pretty good. So let's talk about the articulation. So with articulation, he's very similar again to Batman and most other MAFEX figures. So he can look up like so, which I think is a decent amount. I think some people may prefer a little bit extra, but it's actually still quite good. And then down fully all the way down, touching his chest and then tilting and then looking as well. Then for his arms, he can lift his arms up and move them all the way around. So the socket, the arm might come out of the socket. Sometimes it's just a thing that happens. He can twist and he can pull his arms out like so. You can see there. Show you that. And you got the twist at the bicep. This is something that I do have sometimes just on this arm where it pops out there. This might remind some folks about the Wolverine figure. The length actually seems to be okay. It doesn't seem to happen so much on this arm at all for me so far. Just on this arm, so it does happen sometimes, but it's not as bad as the Wolverine one. Don't worry about that. Got the bend at the elbow, and then the twist at the hand. Typical kind of motions there. Then for the upper torso, you can bend only that far and then back a little bit. You are going to get some markings here, as mine is showing right here. A little bit disappointing. Mine does have that in the. It happens pretty easily on my one, so you might want to get a second figure like I did actually. So yeah, he can move, but you're going to get a lot of friction marks. You can twist, and then leaning is a tiny bit, but that's mostly assisted with the bottom hip point bit. And you can twist as well. Allows him to crunch even further, like so, which is pretty cool. The legs drop down, like so. The joints are a little bit stiff on mine at this point. It's snowing here, so that might be why. There we go. And then that allows him the extra room to kind of kick up as well. You can twist the legs at the groin crotch area as well. Then we got the bend at the knee, similar to with the other figures. Batman's pretty much the same amount, I think. And then the ankle. My ankles are a little bit stiff on this one. And one of the joints, I think it's this leg where it doesn't move so greatly. It's really stiff at the actual ankle bit there rather than at the foot joint. So sometimes I have to end up bending his leg or his foot that way and then kind of bringing it back out. Bit awkward. Probably isn't going to happen on everyone's figure. Mine did by perchance. And then with the toe hinge, like so. So that covers the articulation. It's pretty much the same as most other MAFEX figures. So you can get him into your typical flight pose, which I'll quickly mimic here. Won't change his hands just yet. So there we go. Flight pose. Not exactly the hardest pose to do for any character, but he looks pretty good in it, and I think that's helped by a really good sculpt and really good paint job for the most part. I haven't mentioned it when we're talking about the actual look of the figure, so let's quickly refer back to that. So when I mentioned the friction points right here, for example, at the top part of his abdominal muscles, you can see there's a bit of friction happening there, quite a bit actually. I did have some issue here down there, his just underneath his armpits. So there's some, like, I don't know, it's like this figure had some weird wash on it. His arm's looking a bit weird. He had some weird wash on it, and then I tried to clean that, but it didn't happen. I think they could have done a clean a bit at the seams here, and again on the other side as well. I feel my joint is coming off right here. There we go. Yep, it was. But yeah, some extra care could have been taken at the seams just to give it a cleaner looking look overall. I did have some issues at the legs where, again, it seemed like there was a weird wash or some grime in there. It's probably easier to show you right here, actually. You can see inside the white crust, you might like. It's like it's been sitting on a shelf or something. I'm not sure if he has been sitting on a shelf or what that's all about, but hopefully yours may not have that. It's not a deal breaker, but it was kind of weird to have to see that. So then let's swap out his head with the other one. So since he's only got that one extra head, you can just do that. And then with the poison ivy parts, they're pretty simple to do. Just kind of place it over like so. His cape, it does get in the way of this a bit, but if you play around with it a bit, you can get it to sit right around his neck like so. And then for the hands, so what I'll do is take off the hand and then I'll put the ivy bit on it first, like that, and then we'll swap it to this hand. So same sort of way how you would change Batman's hand or any other figure in the MAFEX line, like so. And then you can do the same with the left arm as well. Put the ivy bits around it. I really don't like the ivy bits. I don't think it looks great on it. It's not painted that great anyway, and they're pretty poor quality. I don't really like them, honestly. I really don't like those. It's probably the worst bit about this figure. So just to bring out Batman and show you how they look together very quickly, so you can see they're not standing up straight, both of them, but they are the same height really, and you can kind of see the difference I mentioned of Superman's pecs versus Batman pecs are different, but otherwise, you know, they aren't that different in terms of body sculpt. Again, the belt as well, but they look pretty good together. Sadly, you cannot use the Bruce Wayne head on this Superman figure. The ball joint is too thin
which is a shame. It's a shame because at least Bruce Wayne comes with a smirk. This Superman doesn't. I'm going to bring out Spider-Man as well, which is very cool. Weirdly, my blue is looking very weird in this Spider-Man figure these days, but Spider-Man is shorter than the two of them. Makes sense. He's about 5'10" or something like that. But they all look pretty good. All three are MAFEX figures, and if you're collecting MAFEX, they all look really solid together, so that's a positive. So it's a classic Superman suit that MAFEX is having a stab at, and I think they've done a really good job in this version of their figure. Maybe they'll do another version to tweak a few things, like the chest, I think, can sometimes look a little bit weird at times, but generally speaking, I like the way the figure looks. I think the cape is a nice red. I like the way that they've done the S, the yellow S on the back of the cape. The cape size is neither too long, too short, in my opinion. I think sometimes the Batman one, for example, is a bit too much. It can really kind of, be a bit unwieldy at times. But for this guy, I think it looks really, really great. I think, like I said before, the seams could be a little bit better and cleaned up a little bit. Just a general kind of QC issue with MAFEX stuff is just improve that. Those kind of things, those little things will go a long way, I think. To make this figure a lot better, though, I think, and to make it go from a really good, excellent figure to even better, two things really. So I already mentioned the face. So the face is, we're lacking a happy face for Superman. I think that's really important to always include something like that for, a classic Superman figure like this. To not do that, I think, is a missed opportunity, or potentially an opportunity to do a re-release with that face. The Return of Superman black suit figure does have that, but that's with a mullet. And the second thing is to also have maybe included other optional parts. For example, heat vision blast effect would have been pretty cool. Maybe some sort of ice effect for his Arctic breath, something like that. Just a couple of extra things that would have made it more suitable for Superman rather than the poison ivy bits, which, I get it, it's a Batman Hush figure, but those things would have really elevated this figure, in my opinion. But that said, I'm still looking forward to the black suit Return of Superman figure coming out later on this year. They are still continuing the Batman Hush line, so they're doing Hush and Catwoman and Joker as well, so I'm going to check out Joker for sure. But I've also covered the Batman one, which I still think is a really solid figure. MAFEX superhero stuff is, they're killing it with their superhero stuff, honestly. The joints are all the same, and a lot of the body scopes tend to be the same, but they're really killing it with this kind of stuff right now, I think. Really, try and get this figure if you can. I actually bought two for myself of this guy and one for my brother. Glad I bought two of them because I have a feeling that the frictional parts, when you move it a bit too much, might cause a bit of issues in the long run. But it should still be available, so definitely try and pick up this figure if you're really after a solid classic look of Superman with the trunks. None of this modern day Superman without the trunks and this, that, and the other. But this is the classic Superman. I think this is a must get for a lot of superhero fans out there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about this figure and if you're going to get it. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.